Thanks, folks, for tuning in here. If you wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe button, because we have I think you're an icon of the sport. You may not think you're so like that.
Yeah,
You're just another guy, with a toolbox. But Cliff Champion on the show, and you can tell what people think of Cliff because he's been on all the, the social media shows. And when somebody gives you a jingle, I give you a jingle. We had never met, and you're just like, hey, sure, no problem. Some of these guys, I've known them for years. I almost have to handcuff them to get them to come on the show. It's like, thanks, I send them hundreds of pictures. They don't come on. I'm like, hey, this is why I sent them to you. And, you don't even know me. You come on the show. Do you look back and go, I guess that's a compliment to me, that people still remember me. You said your last race was 2000. Yeah. Is that's still like a, I'm almost 60. You're over 60. I've got, friends our age, and they talk about the memories. Yeah. That's all we got left, really, because the money's gone. Yeah. We probably have some trophies. Joe Ruttman's got one trophy, and that's a race car. He said he's giving them all away. But, we got the memories. You like reminiscing like that? Is it like cool to do? And it's like, I don't know this guy, but I'll come on the show.
It brings back a lot of memories for me. Because you'll be doing an interview, and they ask you a question. It makes you think of something you haven't thought about in years. And say, oh, man, yeah, that was neat. I'm glad I did that. But I realized, too, that, in racing, if it wasn't for the fans, that we would have never raced anyway. Without fans, the racetracks are going to close up.
Yep.
And I enjoy doing it. And if there's any way that I can bring back some memories for them, or...
You're looking for the DeLorean, huh?
Just, sometimes they sit there and they just learn things that they didn't know about the sport, what it was like back then, Got
to hear from the horse's mouth, though.
Well, that's just it, so there's little details here and there. You can learn something from everybody. So I enjoy doing it.
Well, and the mayor of Mooresville, Lou Seipel, senior, Kyle Harvey. Thank you, Kyle, for having us here at your place. We had to change the venue at the last second. That's like the racing game, kids. Sometimes you got to change things up at the last second. But Kyle's kind enough to let us come here and do it at his place. But Kyle, a couple years ago, said, we need to get Lou's story on the show, and so we did it. Mm-hmm. And so I guess that's another way to look at it, is, okay, let's put your story down. Let's make sure, and family members will whatever look back, or whoever, or they're flipping through your little trading card.
Yeah.
Who's Cliff Champion? Type into YouTube. Oh, there he is. And, he's got quite a story. Yeah. And even, 25 years removed, almost a quarter of a century removed, you're still getting people knocking on your door.
Oh, I still get the cards in the mail. I get her to sign and stuff like that, and it's funny because my wife right now, we didn't marry until 2010.
So she's after.
So I met her in 2008. So she knows nothing about racing, doesn't know anything about it. We go somewhere and people are, hey, I watch your racing or something like that, or I get these things in the mail and she's like, what is it?
Were you somebody?
Like today, I'm going to do this. I said, I got to do this. I'm going to do this podcast today. And she said, well, what is this stuff all about? These guys make money off of this. What is all this stuff anyway? Said,
not yet. I'm working on it, but maybe someday. But well, I guess that segues into my next question, in that your cousin Bill. Now, I always thought, I didn't know if he was your uncle or whatever, because you look at Bill and, boy, he really looked old.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, that must be his uncle. And then I find out later he's your cousin. But, I think, and Bill, I think he ran almost 300 Cup races.
He ran a lot. He didn't run the full schedule,
right?
But he ran everything close to him and stuff like that. He wouldn't go to California, places like that. But
I think he finished top 10 one year, I think, in points, I think.
I believe he did one time. It was, when I came there, it was the middle of 74. And
he was just kind of winding down then, wasn't he?
Yeah. I was at Ricky Rudd's brother. Well, the Rudd family lived about 2 blocks from me. Okay. And my dad knew his dad.
You're on the nice end of Virginia, by the way. I was fishing in Portsmouth.
Yeah,
that's
the
not so nice area.
Yeah.
Sorry, Virginians. I love the state, but Portsmouth's not the greatest area.
Yeah.
Chesapeake, Suffolk, that's nice.
Yeah. We were lucky enough we grew up over there. But my dad knew Ricky's dad, and AJ, of course, we saw him at school, but didn't really know each other. And then my dad told me that AJ had a dune buggy. He was going to take me over and show it to him. So we went over to their house, and it was downstairs in the garage down there, and AJ's dad, Al Sr., had built him a fiberglass dune buggy, or they had done it together. And it turns out that Al Jr. worked after school in a fiberglass factory, and they built boats and dune buggy bodies and stuff. So he ran the chopper gun shooting these, doing these bodies and stuff, and he built him one. And so my dad, yeah, that's pretty cool there and everything like that. He says, yeah, well, okay. So he gave me the money, and I was working after school in a Volkswagen shop. We built dune buggies. We built the complete thing. So I came in there during the Christmas.
What haven't you done? I think the list would be short.
Oh yeah, we came in on over the Christmas holidays. I had 10 days. You get out of school, and I brought a Volkswagen in. You got to cut the chassis in two, shorten it like 12 inches, built it, and I drove it back to school. And 10 days later,
and you were the coolest kid because I got a dune buggy.
Yeah. And then, but he had his, and we were pretty much inseparable by then. But it was, and we had gone into, we were rebuilding totals together at his dad's junkyard. We were doing that, and then he came to me at just before the Daytona race in July, and he said, "Let's go to Daytona and watch a race."
Oh boy.
Well, I don't know. I said, "Man,
I don't know about Daytona in July. Come on."
Yeah, I said, I'm not really interested in it. He said, "I really want to go down there." I said, "Man, that's like watching paint dry." He said, "Well, I really want to go." I said, "Well, I'll tell you what." I said, "If we can get in the garage, I'll go, but I ain't gonna go sit in the stands." I said, "I can't sit in the stands for 3 or 4 hours watch something. I just
especially down there in that
it's hot
sauna,
and humid down there." But anyway,
even at 10 in the morning,
I don't have the patience to do that. I can't sit still that long. So he said, "Well, call your cousin Bill and see if he can get us in the
now
garage."
it's on me, huh? Okay.
Yeah. So
Thanks.
I called Bill. He says, "Yeah, I'll get you in." So we went down there, and it was, the garage area was laid back then, and Bill only had like 2 guys he brought from home helping him with the car. And
to a Daytona. Wow.
Yeah. And they're
Daytona
in there.
back then wasn't the same as it is now.
No,
I mean, it was
no.
not. Yeah,
No,
the
it
big
wasn't.
one.
And a lot of the independent guys, that's all they were. They just had a couple of people they could, pick up to go down there. And he had some guys working on the car, and we were standing around because I'd never been around stock cars before or even seen anything.
What was your first? Sorry to interrupt you. What was your first impression looking around, going, "Well, we got dune buggies, we got this, we got that. Now we got this. This is."
Well, it was just going to the race. That's all it was. I mean, I wasn't really working there or anything. I went down there for the first time, and they were race cars. So I thought they were neat, And
But you weren't like,
no. I was just,
most people are in awe. This is my future, and
no, it was just another race car. It's just another something there. So we stood around and watched them a while, and I saw the guy. He was adjusting the valves on the motor, and I had built some motors and stuff. And usually the way you adjust them is you rotate the motor over until the cam is turned where the valve's not lifting. And then you adjust that one, then you bump the motor over and go through a series right there and get the valves all adjusted. And I watched the guy, and he was adjusting it when the cam lobe was raising the valve up. So I would see him adjust the valve, and then he would turn the motor over, and I'd see the rocker arm drop about 1/4 of an inch right there. You
guys are going to last about 3 laps.
Yeah. So he was doing it. I went over and I said, "Bill," I said, "Look, I ain't trying to be a smart ass or nothing." And I said, "But that guy you got adjusting your valves," I said, he don't know what he's doing." And he said, "Well, do you know how to do it?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, get out of the way." And the next thing I was in there working on it. And then later on, he was going to get Jim Hurtubise was there. He was going to get him to drive the car to qualify and run the race. Right, because Bill was kind of tapering out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And Jim was a really nice guy.
Was he?
And
okay.
he went out and practiced the car once or twice. And the next time he went out to drive the car, he went to back out of the garage, and all of a sudden the steering wheel just spun around in his hand. And what they did back then, they didn't have power steering, and they just ran the stock, what they call a rag joint, in the steering. It was like a big rubber biscuit to absorb the jolts from the road and stuff like that. And they didn't have all these universal joints like they have in them now. It was a stock bit, and that thing dry rotted. It ripped in two when he was backing out.
Who would think of something like that?
Yeah.
I'm sure, right?
Yeah. So we looked at Bill. Everybody was standing there looking at it. I said, "Well, you got a spare?"
"Al, we need some used parts. Where's your dad?"
He said, "Yeah, I got one in the truck over there." So Al Jr. and I ran over and got it. And we jumped in there and fixed it. And everybody else was just standing around looking at it. So we did that, which I was kind of amazed that Jim took the car back out when the steering wheel comes off of your hands like that. I ain't so sure about this right here.
I changed my mind.
But, yeah, I'm not feeling so good. You guys find somebody else. But we switched that, and then that night we got back to the motel, and Bill offered me a job. And he gave me 10% of the car.
Wow.
Which we ran, and
This
was
is
Bill was
74,
one.
75, you said?
This was in '74, July '74.
Not too bad, yeah.
No, no, and
You were what, 20, I would assume. Somewhere in there? 20,
yeah, it
21?
was about my 21st birthday, something like that.
Not bad for
Somewhere
a
along in there.
20-year-old.
No, because we were making at the junkyard out there. We were making $125 a week. So all of a sudden I'm gonna get 10% of the car. Well, that seemed pretty good. And Bill was one of the first ones to run the 351 Cleveland motor. Bud Moore started building them.
Okay.
And
Yeah, Bill, you
Bill was getting his
tested
motors
it.
from Bud.
Okay.
So, or he had him build that one anyway, and had it in the car. And
That's when the for the fans out there who don't know, that's when NASCAR was doing the switch over from the
big
big
block,
block to
small
the small block. And
Exactly.
it was a lot of trial and error from what I remember.
Sure, it was. And
Pearson, I think, even drove a couple for Bud in the small blocks, didn't he?
Who did?
David Pearson,
yeah,
I believe.
yeah, I believe he did. I believe it. I know Bobby drove some
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, he went to Bud and he wanted to change the gear so he would finish the race. He wanted to put like a 310 in it or something instead of a 315. He wanted to turn a little bit less.
He's going to try to
something
tell
like
Bud
that,
Moore
or
what to
maybe
do,
a
huh?
300. And Bud told him, he said, "Man, don't do that." He said, "It'll labor the motor." He said, "It'll labor." Yeah, that's not the right thing to do. And well, Bill went ahead and did it anyway because he just wanted to finish the race.
Went against Bud
And
Moore. Oh boy.
They probably didn't run. We probably didn't run 25 laps and split a cylinder wall because it was laboring the motor so much right there. Well, we came home, and which even just start, you got pretty good money at Daytona.
Yeah,
And everything. And I think I got a paycheck of $600 and some. Like, oh my God, I've hit the lottery
made
here.
the
I
right
just
decision.
went from 125 to 600 and something. It was like 610, 650, somewhere along in there. And
Let's keep doing this.
we get home and I start pulling the car apart and stuff like that. And Bill walks in. He says, "Well, I ordered a new block." He said the block ought to be here in 2 days. And he said the motor room's back there in the corner, right there and everything. So I was motor builder, bearing packer, everything right off
Chief
the bat.
bottle washer?
Yeah, right
Oh,
in
my
there.
goodness.
'Cause it was just me and Bill.
Wow.
Now Ricky's brother AJ, he would come over and help me at night, and he'd come on the weekend and help us change tires and stuff like that.
So then the Rudds actually started. I mean, were they looking at Cup then? Because
No.
Ricky was go-karting,
No.
wasn't he?
He was
Or-
go-karts, and Ricky had started racing motorcycles. He had started doing some dirt track
Motorcycles.
racing, and he had kind of talked to his dad and expressed that, he didn't see a lot of future in motorcycle racing
Yeah,
because
he
he
got
was
hurt
good
bad.
friends with
Yeah,
Mickey
a lot of guys
Boone
got hurt
and some of
bad,
these
didn't
guys that were on the factory deals and stuff. And because Ricky ran good, so he got to be friends with some of the factory guys. And I think Mickey Boone, I believe he's out of Winston-Salem.
Okay.
Super nice guy. Still around. But anyway, he told his dad that, just Mickey was like, he was leading the points. And then some guy wrecks him, he breaks his arm. Well, he's out. Breaks his leg. Then he's, you don't win the championship. You're out for a while. So he said, there's just too much. You can't do anything.
I've talked to so many guys that Jim Vaughn, who, I don't know if you remember that yellow and red car for the Bowsers in ARCA. Talked to Bobby Bowser. He wanted the motocross. Talked to Tim Steele. I mean, all those guys doing motocross, and they just get like wiped. Bob Keselowski's dad, he said about killed himself on bikes.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it's
they're
nothing
still
to do
doing
with you.
today.
It doesn't have anything
Nothing
to do with your
with you,
ability.
right.
You're just in the wrong place at the wrong
You
time.
could be coming down. A guy could be coming on a jump and
Yeah.
land on top. I forget.
Yeah.
I think Jim said that happened to one of his buddies.
Yeah.
He watched it happen. I mean, Springfield watched one of his buddies get killed.
Yeah.
He said, "Man, that's enough." And Bobby Bowser said, "My mom put the kibosh on that." She said, "No dirt biking for you.
Yeah.
We're not doing this." So I can't. Oh my goodness.
So anyway, at the end of '74, I guess Ricky had talked to his dad, and Ricky's dad had actually raced some too.
Okay.
Back in the old days, he ran Moyock and a lot of the old tracks and and the coops and stuff like that. He knew a lot of those guys. So he talked to his dad. His dad talked to Bill, and Bill probably his dad probably bought Bill a set of tires or a couple sets of tires or something like that. And he let Ricky drive the car. Now Ricky was probably 17, 18 years old, whatever, probably 18. Yeah, he was 3 years younger than me, so he was probably about 18 years old, something like that.
But good timing is that again, Bill's sort of probably looking at.
Yep.
We can start renting the car out, like Buddy started doing in late '80s. Maybe rent the
some
car
money.
out. Probably get to the twilight of my career. So good, good timing.
So that's how it started out, right there.
Well, why did that keep going with Bill though? I mean,
Well,
why build their own stuff?
Bill wasn't the best funded. He just local auto parts or something like that.
But if Al's going to build his own stuff, Bill's already got his stuff. So why didn't Al and Bill?
Well, because Ricky didn't have anything at the time. They had nothing. He had some motorcycles, and they were just kind of sticking their toe in the water. and seeing how he did it. You know, he just wrench a couple rides, and that's what most people do.
Yeah.
You know, you rent a ride, you know, and go out there and okay, it looks like you've got the ability and everything. Okay, now and that's what they did after they ran that year, and Bill and Ricky's dad got into it. They had
there we go.
they had a problem.
You Virginians.
They had a problem with one of the motors and had a bad valve or something, and Bill, he couldn't find a racing. You know, he had to go all the way down to Bud Motors. He had to get the motor together, and so he went to the dealership and just bought a stock valve and put in it.
Wow.
And Ricky's dad, you can't do that and everything like that and everything, and it was a big deal about
Do
it.
that, we ain't racing.
So they went to the racetrack and it dropped the valve and blew the motor. So that's when they parted ways right there. They got into it and parted ways right there. So I went to work for James Hylton after that, and that's when they started looking at it, and they ended up getting their own car and stuff like that.
Yeah, but they went the Chevy route. They didn't go the Ford.
Chevy.
But the big
Chevys
Trans
were
Am
cheaper.
Eagle
Yeah.
on the hood. Yeah,
There was a lot of guys that were, you know, Ford loyal or Mopar loyal and stuff like that. And Ricky's dad, he just recognized that the Chevrolets, the parts were a lot more readable, you know, a lot cheaper and stuff like that. So
cheaper.
Yeah.
Probably at a junkyard
Not
full
cheap,
of stuff.
just cheaper.
Oh, well, right.
And I came back when they got their own car. I came back to working for them, and it was funny because, you know, you could get a 370 gear. If we needed a 370 gear, we just go get one. Pickup truck came with a 370 gear, so we just go out there and pull one out of a truck and get a locker and put the ring and pinion in it or something. You need a set of springs. You could get a set of rear springs out of a station wagon out there and have a set of 600-pound springs for the front. You know, cut them down and use that. You know?
Nowadays, you call NASCAR, or I'm sorry, the approved vendor. Yeah. Where do I get my part? Down the street. And
they didn't care back then. Yeah.
I mean, to whoever owned by NASCAR. Oh, I'll shut up. But,
yeah, they didn't care about any of that back then.
Wow.
You know, you just did what you could. You know, and you knock a fender off, and we'd go out there in the junkyard and find like a Vista Cruiser had one of the biggest flat pieces of metal, and we just cut it out, and grind the paint off, and make a fender out of it.
English wheel here.
Yeah.
Wow.
We used to make that stuff. We didn't know you could buy things.
Wow.
Well,
but that changed the sport too when you started having to buy things too. I mean, it saved time, but now it's like the cost
more money,
more money. But I mean, yeah, I guess the things evolve, you know. And
sure.
You know, from what I understand, there's no weld points on that next gen car. It's all bolt together. From what I hear.
Wow.
If you can imagine that. I know the safety director in ARCA, and he said no weld points. I said, how can you do that? But okay.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah, I don't know. They made out of billet or something.
Yeah, right.
That'd really be expensive. But
right. Well, those guys were all, you know, backing into the fence, and everybody's just or whatever, and you just go, well, he's okay. Oh no, he's got a concussion. He can't drive. You're like, what? They made the cars too rigid.
Too rigid. Yeah.
I mean, even I wrote a book on. I don't know if you ever heard of Joy Fair, local guy up in Detroit, won like 1,000 features. He early '80s, he wrecked real bad, and he said they made the car too rigid. They broke his leg, turned it around, had a concussion real bad, and he said, you know, he helped Joe Ruttman get started in the sport. I'm surprised Joe didn't talk about Joy Fair. Joe Ruttman, that's his hero. You know, Joy had to start picking his brain, all the NASCAR engineering he knew. He said, we just made the car too rigid.
Yeah.
Put these crush panels and points and all this kind of stuff in. And so I look back on this to this day and go, you guys know that? I mean, we're talking 2020.
It's only common sense. I mean, when you think about it, look at what they do with streetcars. They make crush zones in them so that the passenger compartment stays safe. You know, something has to absorb the energy. So if you can make the front collapsible up to the firewall and the rear collapsible up to there, absorb some of the energy. It can't be too soft, and it can't be too stiff. You know, the body only takes so much.
Not to jump on the soapbox and get myself in trouble, but you would figure they'd hire a guy like a Cliff Champion to say, okay, I mean, it still all applies. I mean, okay, your knowledge was from the 70s, 80s into the 90s, and the last one in 2000, but like you said, common sense. I mean, yeah, we got engineers, sure, but okay, it's still. I think you need both. You need the engineer and you need the guy who was, like you say, poking around in the junkyard. Yeah. And then put it together. I think. That's my opinion.
I think you do too. I mean, there's there was plenty of people around, and I don't know why. I mean, I know a lot of the race teams now, and that's one reason I'm glad I'm not racing right now. Is it's pretty much, you know, you'll have one or two guys working on the car and 6 or 7 engineers. You know, and you can't change anything. Where we'd figure something out, and that's what I enjoyed about the racing back then. Is all the teams were racing against the best that you could figure out, and it was like me against him and everything. And now it's just a bunch of team engineers who can afford the best engineers and do those things. And the teams, you can't change anything.
Right.
Without getting, it has to go through engineering and approvals and this
simulation.
And that. And there's no seat of the pants. This is what needs to be done. And I'm just guessing that the engineers overrode anybody's common sense comments and everything, because we've got the data.
Yeah.
We've got the data right here and everything, and this is what needs.
We got the data here. Well, we have it, like you said, we got it here. You know, we got it here.
Yeah. That's exactly where we got it from. But and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with what they're doing now. It's just
But listen to the to the voices and do the best. I'm not a mechanical guy. I mean, I'm glad I know where the hood is. But, but you look back now, and I mean, Kurt Busch at the awards banquet. He's in tears. He's got to retire. He's still not cleared to drive.
Yeah.
And it's something like that. It's so sad.
Yeah.
Looking back, you see this guy walking with a briefcase. I've heard Darrell Walter talk about it, and they just go, go away. When you saw that, what did you think? Did you think, okay, this is here to stay, or let's keep those guys out as long as we can? Or
I didn't care if they did. I had to work with one or two, and in the beginning, it was like, they'd come to me, and they'd go, this is what we need to do here. I go, dude, I said, that works good on paper. I said, it ain't gonna work on the track. I appreciate you thinking about all this stuff, but that's not gonna work on the track. And they would come up with some good ideas.
Sure.
I'm not
totally bashing.
I'm not down them.
Yeah.
But there needs to be.
But it's my way of the highway thinking, doesn't.
Yeah, that doesn't work on either way.
Right.
The engineers can advance you a lot, but in my opinion, there doesn't need to be one engineer that has a go or no go, just like in a space shuttle. There can't be there needs to be like a couple of guys that from engineering and a guy from the common sense guy, and somehow, and they got to communicate and then have that third person to be the middle of the road and say, okay, this is what we're going to do right there. Where it's mostly engineer driven right now, and I'm not sure that it's the best for everybody like that. But.
And I think also what happened now with this new car, and taking away a lot of the constructability, I guess is the word you want to use.
Yeah.
There was also, quote unquote, stars in the mechanics and the crew chiefs and the crew members. I mean, you look back at old issues of Scene, and these guys were like household crew members are household names. I'm not talking crew chiefs.
Yeah.
We're talking crew members. And they got to know them, and they got to be heroes of people. Like I don't mean to stamp my broadcast, but. Coming up on Stocks for Tots here in the later part of the year, and Doug Reichert was champion crew chief.
Yep.
But there's guys that are going to be there who were crew members. Mm-hmm. And and again back to what we talked about earlier. Your last race was 2000, and are we going to remember some of these guys, that are crew members today? Even some crew chiefs. Are we going to remember them 25 years from now?
Well, that's the thing.
It's been removed.
Yeah, it has, and that's one of the things I don't, which the sponsors are responsible for that a lot. I think. I don't know that for sure, but in my that's what it seems like to me. Because the sponsors have a lot with who gets promoted and who doesn't get promoted and stuff. And just like the sponsors, they promote the driver because that's their face on TV and that's their face at thing, and they don't really want it convoluted with anybody else. You don't want. You're like when you watch a TV show or just even a football field. You go to a football game and you don't know the names of all those guys out there on the line and stuff like that. Yeah, you see the quarterback. Yeah, you get the quarterback and the wide receiver, and and nobody. The other guys aren't really famous. There's a few that sneak through every now and then that come up, but who knows the name of the center?
Yeah, right. Unless it's your hometown team, or
exactly.
Probably.
Unless it's something like that, or you're really big. But the average fan can't keep up. It's too much for them to remember all the different names and all that. But to me, that's what I enjoy about things like this podcast is people get to hear the stories. Because I listen to. I don't get to listen to all the podcasts. I listen whenever I can get a chance. But
I know you listen to us.
I learn a lot of things from it.
Yeah.
I'll sit there and some of my friends that I've known for years, I'll listen to that. And you listen and go, oh my God, I didn't know they did that. I didn't know went through that. And I learned so much from it.
Yeah.
So it's all interesting to me.
Plus you were living it at the time. You're not busy jawing at the time. You're busy getting that car to go faster.
You're busy. Yeah, you're not paying attention. Richard Petty. You know, he's somebody that he would probably recognize my face. He might not remember my name, but he would recognize my face. I went up to him when James Hylton died, and I said hi to him and asked him and Rick Hendrick. I went in and tried to get up a collection for James right there, and a lot of, oh, hey, how you doing? You know, hadn't seen me in a while. They recognize the face, probably don't remember the name or anything like that. But I remember when not long after I first started, I was with Bill, and we were in the garage area. Somehow we ended up right next to Bill. I mean, right next to Richard Petty in the garage area. And Richard's sitting up on the bench, and he's watching, and we're over there working on the car. He come over and he goes, you know, I'm not trying to learn your secrets over here, okay? He said, I'm just trying to watch what not to do.
I was complimenting you were watching until you said that.
but and he was joking.
Right.
He was joking, and that's
Put
what you gotta
ease, yeah.
You gotta know that when they say things like that. But it was Richard Petty was.
At least he's watching.
Richard Petty's birthday is July 2nd. Mine is July the 3rd.
Okay.
And every year somebody would bring Richard a birthday cake to Daytona. And if
You'd
he
get a
saw me
cupcake.
around, he would always make sure that I got a piece of the cake
well,
because
that's
he knew
nice.
my birthday. My birthday was right there, so he'd make sure I got a piece of cake. Right there.
Bicentennial kid, you.